What's going
It's
on,
so good
man?
to see you, bro.
Yeah, it's really good to see you too, man.
Yeah,
Really
man. How
good.
you been?
Man, I've been doing well, just trying to let's just say stay cool because my job, which I'm very grateful for, it's very hot. I operate dryers for an industrial laundry company for medical stuff like blankets, sheets, towels. So
Okay. So
but outside
things that go to like treatment centers and stuff, like them state ran facilities.
maybe, and then I think the majority of our clientele is up in Oklahoma. I think actually hospitals as well. And
Cool.
outside of that, man, I'm doing the best to master me. That's all I'm trying to do is master me.
Dude,
You know.
that's why I really wanted to have this conversation because a little bit of backstory real quick. I met Reggie in 2017. Let me just precursor. You told me before we mentioned, do you want me to address you as how do I say it? Reggie, Jaw?
Whatever's comfortable with you, but
Okay. Well,
I
I just
really
want to make you feel comfortable as well, man,
all
because
comfortable.
whatever you feel empowered by is what I want to
Mhm.
call you by, man. So like whatever that is, that's what I want to call you by because it's a respect
So,
thing.
all right. So a lot of people I do like Prince does. I'm Jaw, formerly known as the artist Reginald Finch.
I love it. I love it, bro. So
Yeah.
I met Ja Reggie in 2017 at this treatment facility, homeless shelter, um, thrift shop,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
homeless, called Souls Harbor. Um, and I walked into a place where I was spiritually very unfit and I didn't know much about myself. And I was thrown into the wolves' den with a bunch of grown men that have done nothing but struggle their entire lives. And Reggie was at the helm of this entire operation, making sure that these guys had jobs, making sure that the business side ran smooth. Because we also picked up donations for thrift stores that we sold furniture out of in order to make the facility run so men could have a place to sleep. And I slept here and I gained a lot of humility, but the most important part of that was I learned where to watch people because something that I was told in that place was I needed to shut my mouth and listen. And it stuck with me. So what I did was is I watched Reggie and I watched a few other guys, but I really watched Reggie's spirit. I watched your spirit, man.
Mhm.
Um I seen you I seen you put up a dude in behind a building one time because he stole something and like you literally had one arm up and he was like you had him in a chokehold, man. But it didn't scare me and it didn't make me think that you would hurt me or hurt anybody else, but it made me know that you had boundaries about things and things were going to be ran a certain way and you had principle. And that's what I gravitated towards. I didn't never complete that program. It was a 6 month program. I never completed it, which I'm a little ashamed about, but I guess that's my ego telling me that sometimes that I'm not good enough to do what I'm destined to be. And so we try to lose confidence in our path by thinking about our failures or where we fall short in life where we should succeed. I learned work ethic. I learned discipline. I learned how to wake up on time, but I
Mhm.
also learned accountability. And
Okay,
I watched that from you.
okay.
And so that's why I wanted to have you on. You're probably the most interesting guest that I've had on so far because I really don't know a lot about you,
Okay.
but I know enough about you to tell that your spirit today is where my spirit's at. And I think that we follow the same path. And I hope that we can get far enough into this conversation where we can talk about consciousness
Oh
and
yeah.
we can talk about our spirituality. And I also like you said that you work dryers, man, and it is a hot job. I'm a mover, and I also
Hmm.
work at Target
In there.
Distribution. It's hot, bro. But the
Yeah.
thing about it is your work ethic, no matter what you do, is a direct reflection of what you do when nobody else is watching. When
Correct.
when we live alone and we learn about ourselves,
Hmm.
we strive, but it's uncomfortable, so we strive. And
Right.
so I want to hear a little bit about your backstory and where you've come from and pretty much how you've landed here, man. So I'm going to give
Okay.
the floor to you for a little bit, and then we'll just kind of let that flow into conversation. One of the most important things about this conversation is our authenticity and
Right.
and how we convey this message to others, because and I get chills talking about this, man. And I like the world is lost, dude. It's so
Hmm.
lost, and they're following something that they don't have no under idea or understanding of what that is. Because I know what I follow, and what I follow is something that has shown me love,
Hmm.
but also showed me what it's not like, what it's like to not have love at the same time. And it came
Okay.
from the same place.
Okay.
I understand what the worst that the world can bring, but I also understand like that love part and that unconditional love and that infinite love that comes
Hmm.
along with it. We're gonna see how much alike we truly are in this conversation, man. So again, I'm gonna give the floor to you. Go ahead, man.
All right. Well, I just want to say kudos, bro, because one thing you are, I'm amazed and pulling for you is you're taking the courage to do a podcast. You you know, and where did this come from? It came from a thought. All right. Where does this thought come from? This thought comes from the innermost conscience. All right. And you're brave enough, regardless of what might be said, because we're not in. I'm not in power of other people's perception of what goes on in their reality. You're you're doing what is supposed to be done, in my viewpoint, on your path of talking about this expanded consciousness. All right. All right. So a little bit about me, and to kind of make it a little short. I grew up, born in 1968. I'm a product of the 60s. And what I mean by the 60s, really probably of the 50s and stuff like that, because my interpretation based on what I was believing my father was trying to say. My mother and father, I love them. They're no longer here. But growing up, I was very angry at my father because I didn't understand. I personalized everything that he did, but he was a man just like you and I are men. There ain't no book. I mean, we're trying to figure this shit out. And my father and them didn't have these groups or this love like we have, where I say, I love you, man, especially, they're going through racial stuff. And so, but until I saw the movie Fences by Denzel Washington, then I truly understood my father. But basically, my father, I've been pretty good in sports. Very, very young age, I started lifting weights, and I was always kind of different because I grew up majority around people who didn't look like me, having the best education. They look like you. I would hear things about people that look like me, and I was kind of different. But my father would always tell me, hey, you know, because at his day and age, let's just say being a man, prior and like early 1800s or 1900s, being a man was you had a farm, you could take care of your kids. Then the industrial age, being a man is you go to work for a factory, you can take care of your kids and family. You're a man. Then next, came the war. Hey, man, you can be a man, you go to war, come back, you're a man, you take care of your family. Well, after that came integration in sports. Now, here it is, you're an African American or a descendant from slavery or something, and being accepted by a system that said, we don't want this. Now you have these athletes that became accepted, and this is the era my father grew up. And so he raised me in with education, and so did my mother, my grandparents, but in sports. So I've been lifting weights and playing football, but I was under the impression that my father was trying to say, hey, you had to be a football player in sports to be a man or be accepted. So in that, growing up, I'm pretty good in sports. And then if you want to check out, like I said, Fox 4 did a thing kind of on my past life, YouTube, Fox 4, Running to Addiction.
I'll add the link to the description when I
Okay, all
drop
right,
it on YouTube.
all right. And then here's the other thing with television. I used to watch Leave It to Beaver all the time. All right. I thought that's how the world was.
Okay.
I had a very skewed view of the world. I never saw color. I made friends pretty easy, but moving forward, I graduated high school in 1988. I went to go play football at the greatest college ever, Oklahoma Sooners, and here it is. I was going to be a Heisman Trophy, and so candidate winner. So my identity is now I'm a football player. I'm always striving to be an identity in some kind of secured group. I was a jock in high school. I was this, I was that, and all I wanted to do was be accepted because I did not know who I was. I was unconscious of the fact
I have
of
a
who I
question
was.
real quick. I want to
Yeah.
spark some. Do you think that at that point in time you were addicted to compliments?
Uh, I needed someone. Okay, and this is one of the things, even at my age now, that I'm having to replace the I am, the consciousness in me, to realize I don't have a coach. I have been programmed all my life in sports that I had a coach, and coach told me what to do. And in that, I was the best player. All right. And so I got pats on my back. So the addiction, before it manifested into an outer form of drugs and alcohol, going to jail and all that, was I was do anything to please and get that reassurance that I was okay by people pleasing or pleasing the coach, pleasing my dad, pleasing my mom, not understanding again who I truly am. All right. So after I left Oklahoma, started drinking, got kicked off the football team, blah blah blah. Ended up going to the Vera Junior College, graduated from there, went on to North Texas, played football there. And in 1993 season or 92 season, I broke my hip. And now, who am I without sports? I still graduated college, got 2 degrees. But after I left North Texas and graduated, I'm lost. I'm married with kids. And so I go get a job and I'm at Bally's Health Club. I'm a personal trainer. And then I start working in the nightclubs. And now I'm in this really exclusive and nightclub that everybody used to go to. It was called Lizard Lounge way back when. And I'm one of the bouncers. And it was Party City. So now I'm partying. I replaced being a football player with selling dope. And then about 1997, I get arrested with a whole lot of dope. I end up going to prison. End up getting divorced and then becoming homeless. And but all this time, I'm angry. I'm identifying with anger.
Seething.
This, just like this is not what was supposed to happen. I'm supposed to be a pro football player, and I was so arrogant. I didn't. Not only was I supposed to be a football player, I didn't even know what being a man was. I thought I had privileges that I can go sew my rolls, even though I was married. I
You
can
thought
do this.
also that just because you could whoop someone's ass, that made you a man too.
I mean, all these
Because
false
you had
ideals.
yeah,
This
ego, it's in like I hope that you get to that insecurity part that like was derived from all of that.
well, I did not even know I was insecure till way later. And the insecurity came all the way until 2010. I finally hit rock bottom after I gone to prison and all this stuff. I'm
Where did you
homeless.
go? When you left prison, where did you go? And how long were you
I,
in prison for?
I did like 12 years on a 10, but that's in and out. All right. So I did
Okay.
3.5 years flat. And then I was to my grandparents' house, and then the day I went to my grandfather's house, wasn't even there one day. He told me I had to leave because my mom helped me get out of prison. So I went to a homeless shelter, and then I had a cousin that came and found me, and I moved in with my cousin, and I stayed out in Longview and Gladewater area for a while, and then came back to Dallas. In between that time, I'm getting high, and then my father-in-law, ex-father, well, he's still my dad even though I wasn't married to his daughter anymore. I lived with him until I started using again. And then this went on for a very, very long time. But until about 2010, around 2010, 2009, when I hit rock bottom. That's where I ended up at Souls Harbor. At Souls Harbor, which when I got there, I was so angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at everything. I was a victim to everything. But my spiritual awakening had started even when I was in prison. You know, I'm always studying. I'm grateful for my grandmother in the 4-H club, because I didn't realize when my grandmother died, she was an Eastern Star. So and my family are very, very serious about education and everything. I get to Souls Harbor, and I'm finally at a place. And I remember getting on that bed that first time, and I could just stop thinking, because I believed every time I thought anything, it just turned to just, it was just horrible. And so that's where, I don't know if you remember Eddie Dean, if he ever came through. So
very familiar.
So here comes Eddie Dean, and he's talking about owner of the brain. And man, I love mythology. I love any kind of, and we just catch on. To me, being at Souls Harbor, it was prison, school, a building. Anything that's a building is given a title. Okay, let's just say that an institution. Anything that's given an institution is given a title. It's up to the individual to decide what that title, and we tell ourselves a story from what we believe that this building is. And to me, Souls Harbor was a school, just like prison was a school. A lot of times, I don't know if we ever got sat down and talked, but a lot of times I would sit there and I would share with people, like, tell me the meaning of Lion King, or tell me the meaning of the Three Little Pigs. And because the story of consciousness is out there, it's in plain sight. It's in X-Men, it's in DC Comic, it's all over. The story is out, but we have been taught not to see it. But first, I had to realize that I was creating my own suffering. And now, on the part of security, of being insecure, I didn't realize I was insecure probably until, let's just say, about a year ago. Around 2020, even though after all these years of sobriety and all this stuff, I had a serious relapse. All right. And what had happened was, around July of 2020 or August 2020, I had a heart attack. All right. So even though I had all these years of clean time, and, you know, my worldview, my belief system about me, all right, and when I say me, I'm talking about the body, okay? When I say myself, I'm talking about, let's just say, the ego, because I consider myself as part of me, and then spirit, and then the I am is the consciousness. The I am starting to awaken, because even though I had years of not using drugs and alcohol, and then not using, because to me, anger is using, because my brain produces neurotransmitter called emotions that I get hooked on. Meaning, when I'm saying that my body and brain has been conditioned for years of chaos, that are the stories that I've told, from racism or being rejected by women or abuse, or all these stories that have been conditioned either through education or through family that says something, become part of my belief system. I am creating my own suffering, because I'm always trying to cling on to something that gives me security, some form of a belief system. I didn't know I was insecure until after my heart attack, which I had heart surgery. But what started happening was, my body is doing things, you know, at 50 years old, my body, you know, those leaky pipe commercials that you see on TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I understand those now.
Are you putting them patches that Shaq puts on his back?
Hey man, I got all kinds of ointments and pills,
Hey,
all kinds of stuff.
hey, let's say something real quick, man. When I also first met you, you was flipping tires in the street.
Oh, I
I
still
mean,
flip.
like monster truck tires, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I think I wanted to say something because you said that you were creating an image. I looked at you like Superman. If people were putting that energy inside of you and you're an addict as it is, the success that you were creating in your own reality,
Mhm,
but if you look at the things that are going around,
mhm.
it's very easy to get lost in that, especially when we have a bunch of other egos just feeding it to us.
And that's true. What ended up happening for me was, and I'm not gonna knock anybody else, was I had severe ED. I'm losing strength. One of the guys at Souls Harbor asked me to go get some toe chains, and man, I could pick up a long, good 10-foot toe chain with one hand, throw it. It took me two hands, and I had to drag it. Now I'm getting weak. Here's the mindset, losing my strength. Then people tell me that, hey, they wanted me to rest, not to work as much. So I start delegating my duties and stuff that all it, and so fear, insecurity of fear crept in ever so little because I'm like, how am I going to pay myself if I'm not going to these jobs? And then if someone calls, one of my guys, instead of calling me, they call one of my guys. Oh my God, I'm getting replaced. The fear of replacement, those insecurities start manifesting. And now I'm just like, as an addict, man, I'm paranoid. Like, everything, I'm thinking my wife is cheating on me. Or my friends, or that, they want to replace me and take my job so that I can feel like a man. Because I tried all kinds of pills and went to the doctor, and that was embarrassing enough. But I said, you know what? The last time I felt it, you know what? Because I reached out to someone and they were like trying to be, trying to be pleasant about it. They're like, it's okay, it's broken. Well, that crushed me. I'm not broken. I remember the last time I went, I'm gonna go get a shot of dope. I went and used, and the people who I thought were gonna be in my corner that understood, because before I used, I had talked about it for like 2 years, what was going on with me, laughing and kidding, but bro, that they weren't there. I mean, they got
I
mad.
know.
Next, I lose my job. Like I said, there were people who I just knew that knew me and would be there, and they just went hot potato. And then all my stuff that was at Souls Harbor, they got rid of, or that were close to me. It was like and so I got so angry. I said, you know what? People put me on a pedestal. And now that I need help, they can't help me. Where do I go? But then in this 2 year while I was out using, I was just angry. And then I get arrested April 12th of what is this, 24? So 22, I guess. Yeah, somewhere around 22. Greatest thing ever happened, get arrested. So I'm in Dallas County, and the epiphany starts happening. I mean, the awakening is still happening, because what I choose to say God is, in my perspective, I say the all, universal all. I don't believe God is a he or she. I have yet to see a great penis in the sky. I haven't. I believe God is frequency, and that frequency emanates in all creation. But I guess the storytellers have to put it like in a human form, because our ego has to be a part of it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you asked me something.
Because golly, we are so alike, dude. I'm over here I'm writing notes. We are so similar in the fact that like, there's such similarities and differences that contrast that you can even draw a line to the contrast as well. Did you have a physical, spiritual awakening? Like, was this a moment?
No, these moments continue to happen. In my perspective, a spiritual awakening, it's always happening. I just have to be connected to understand and perceive it is a spiritual unfolding. It's not a one-time thing. All right. Can't say for others' perspective, because I'm not in others' body. I just know for me, it is like an onion, or let's just say the lotus blossom. There are going to always, as long as I'm staying on this, what we will just say right now is a path, all right, or the way, all right. If I try to label it, then I'm going to lose it. So I just call it the path or the way. And as I consciously or spiritually become more of who I am, an aspect of God, all right? And I believe I am an aspect of God. I am a masculine characteristic of God. And I back that up because I even say, Christ even quotes scripture in Matthew 10:34-5, and he says to the legal authorities, the Sadducees and Pharisees, is it not written in your own scriptures that you two are the sons of are gods with a little g, all right? Psalms 82 says, and this is from God, whoever wrote it down, saying God said, you two are gods, little gods. If that frequency, that God consciousness is me, it's just wrapped in this form. The more that I continue to stay, I meditate or listening to, because I'm all about frequencies at night. I'm on YouTube. I put 936 or healing frequencies or, stuff that works on me subconsciously while I'm sleeping. Absolutely. Because everything is vibration.
Yes.
At the most molecular level, and we're all vibration. We all have an electromagnetic field. That means consciousness to me is a part of the spiritual world. Now, physically, my body heals because one time after I broke my hip in college, I was told I wasn't going to be able to run for 3 years. I walked for 2 years, run for 3, but I ended up playing the last 3 football games. That was a miracle. I didn't understand. My body healed, but I have a 56-year-old body, and it's talking to me. I don't want to say I have a 56-year-old. I dwell in a 56-year-old body that is connected to a time period in this reality. I don't personally believe in time anymore. Time is a construct by men.
Nothing that you're saying so far is anything that I disagree with, because I've had these experiences on my path as well. And it's almost like as you're speaking, I have simultaneously had these experiences.
I dwell in a 56-year-old body. The I am. It's continually growing more, and I see the signs of that growing because we're able to talk about the ego. My ego has been living and been fed and worked out for 50 years. The consciousness of who I'm finding out who I really am is 6 years old. All right. That's why I'm saying I'm mastering me, my body and my ego and the mind. Because now, Jordan, I at work, stuff going on at work where I used to sit there and like, man, why are these people this and why are these people that? I now say to myself, why? Because I'm observing myself, what my mind comes up with. That's what I have power over.
You're manifesting your own reality, man.
That's correct. I have power over manifesting my own reality. That there might be a little disagreement with. I don't have power over my body. Now, here's what I'm saying. There's a thing, Kinesian, that's Kinesiine. And if you YouTube it, it's What's Kinesian explained by Ron Vale. And basically, it's a molecule that's in my body that transports stuff down my spinal cord to various other parts of my body. And it's like it walks and it's got a molecule attached to it and it's carrying it. So
it's the motor.
Motor. It's a motor protein, right? So if I was my body, I don't tell that motor protein what to do. I don't sit around conscious. That is an entity was inside of me. When I say me, the body. I don't have power over my heart. If I had power over my fingers fall. You know, there's just realizing that I don't have power over what, if I put something in my body is going to respond to it. I used to think that I was responding to it. No, my body was responding to it, tells my brain if it likes it. And if I don't get it, then my brain conjures up a dream that my mind, I'm powerless over what is going on in my body. I have power of what I tell the story as I manifest my reality. I don't want to put meth in my body anymore. All right, that was my drug of choice. When I put meth in my body and my mind, it just takes over. But this last time, because I've spiritually grown, this is not who I am. My body and brain has been conditioned over years, and it wants that, whether it's negative thinking, and this is where I'm really more addicted, is negative thinking, because negative thinking gives me a sense of a dopamine rush. I don't want to be hooked on dopamine. I don't want to be hooked on anger. I don't want to be hooked on negative thinking. That comes with a constant, if we want to call it discipline, daily practice of being aware and staying in the moment. And I said this at Souls Harbor. I think in 5-minute increments. If you ask me something beyond 5 minutes, I can't tell you what's going to happen. If it happened 5 minutes ago, that was the past that don't exist.
Let's do this, man. All right, so I've got some questions here. Were you saved at a young age? Were you raised in a church?
Oh, man, look, bro. I've jumped in water, through sticks and fires at church camp. Religiously, because I quoted some word that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, whatever organization that has they're saying. I mean, I've been in Islam. I said the Shahada. The saving did not happen until about the last few years.
I understand. I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere with this, man.
But yes, I've been baptized and all that. Yeah.
Okay. I was also. You don't want to be hooked on dopamine is what you said. And you said you don't want to be hooked on anger.
Yeah.
Brother, anger and dopamine's part of the experience. So
that's true.
if we don't experience dopamine and anger, then we can't draw a baseline of where we're even at to stay at the original baseline, which would be the unconditional love that we try to vibrate out of our consciousness anyway. Sure. The dopamine's important because, for instance, creating your own suffering, right? Suffering, okay?
Yeah.
Listen. Right. I think the moment that you were saved at a young age, because the moment that I was saved at a young age, I was severely molested from 6 to 12 years old. Now, I love everything about this situation. I've talked about this before, and it's not happened like recently, or it's happened recently to where I've been able to find love for all of this that's happened. But there is a reason why I found love for it. I think the moment that I was saved, I accepted the Christ consciousness. I vocalized what I wanted, but I didn't really understand what I was taking on at that time, and I don't think other people really did either. That's when suffering started for me. I can correlate all the things that I did in church, all the things that were preached at me, which was very traumatic also, along with the very traumatic things that were happening in my life that nobody else was talking about, but they were telling me to fear this other stuff. And it was very confusing. I had started my own suffering at a very, very young age after I had came out and said that this was going on. Addiction started for me, man. I became emotionally disconnected from my mother. My father wasn't even in the picture. He was an alcoholic.
Okay.
I became emotionally disconnected from my mother, which was weird because during that whole time, life was good. Life was good with my mom. It's kind of ironic, but I became emotionally disconnected and just connected to alcohol. I also broke my hip in high school. It really set me back a lot because that's when I discovered weed and Xanax. I realized that painkillers wasn't going to do enough for me.
Right.
So I started mixing all of that with alcohol. ETBU was looking at me to play baseball. Threw that out the window, man, because I mean, it was all that stuff was more important than that, and partying and trying to fit in because I was a late bloomer. I had been severely traumatized at a young age. All I wanted to do was redeem myself and try to show how masculine I really was, but I was really timid and just really, really scared. So I graduated, went to the army, addiction, caught a felony in at 25 or something in 2015, ended up at Souls Harbor. I got sober in 2020. I had started at that point in time tapping into the okay, whatever this really is, let's make it be known and let's not worry about the repercussions of what's about to happen. I kind of started taking back control of my life, which I something I had never ever done. I didn't even realize it at the time, but in this treatment center that was 9 months ran by TDC, it's called the Deer Unit out of White Oak. I don't know if you've heard of that place. Really rigorous and kind of a mind game. You know how it goes, man. This dude came in and his name's Zach. He sat down on this bench and I was like, "Hey, dude, what's up, man? My name's Jordan." And he's like, "What's up?" And like, he's kind of standoffish and just kind of being funny. I was like, "Guess what? You're my new best friend." At that moment, man, I manifested my best friend because now he is my best friend. We started talking about how we could take our lives back and be serious, but also do it in a way to where we didn't have to really go by the agenda of what everybody else was doing because they kept talking about recidivism rate and it was super low. It was super low, man. We were just very discouraged by that. We were like, we can do this. If we stick together, we can do this. Zach got some reading sent in on Taoism, and it's
Mm-hmm.
Taoism. Taoism. We
Mm-hmm.
started reading the Tao Te Ching, and very, very, very hard literature to understand, especially when you're a Southern Baptist Christian like me. Didn't really understand much of anything because I was just ignorant to one way. So I was very confused, but it resonated with me, man. Hindsight now, what was happening was it was subconsciously resonating within me, and it tapped into something to where I could center myself in a way that no matter what was going on around me, I could be as still as possible because I went inside. And it was incredible, dude. It got me through that 9 month treatment because I lost my grandmother and I lost my father in that time. And that was another thing that switched my mentality and my perspective also. I get out, man. I have this thing since I was severely traumatized at a young age, I've come to realize that all the relationships that I've been in from a very young age either resemble the relationship that I've had with my mother, as in like trying to recreate a non-codependent relationship, or it was heavily derived around sex. And it was either or. And then sometimes it was both. I didn't realize that until my last marriage. Before I got married in this last marriage, my ex-wife, she lived in Kentucky. I hit her up on Facebook, dude. Like, and mind you, 3 years sober, this recovery that I'm in now, or maybe 2 years. Either way, I shouldn't have been messaging a girl in Kentucky and trying to convince her to come to Texas. It was red flag number one. I felt on the inside dread, but I didn't identify it then. But I felt like that I was making the wrong move. I went ahead and did it nonetheless. And what did she do? She drives from Kentucky, even gets her baby daddy to drive from Texas to come pack her stuff up and drive her back here to live with me. And I ain't never met her a day in my life. And so when she shows up, she just comes into our house. She ain't ever been there before. Crazy, crazy insane. Mind you, I know that something greater than me is telling me, dude, what the hell are you doing? But I do it anyway. And life is good. I'm a recovery coach. I have a clientele. I'm walking my path. But I didn't know what my higher power was, and I just knew that I'm on a search. I'm searching. We go and we elope in Colorado, and life is good. Meanwhile, man, I'm having breakthroughs. I'm having real spiritual breakthroughs. I had a moment. I needed answers, man. So I took a 9 dose of psilocybin and I wanted to meet God. What had happened in that was like 4 hours of nothing, and then 6 hours of me going missing, me feeling like that I was murdered, the police picking me up, and some real profound things. I was brought to my conscience, and I didn't see with my eyes. However, my eyes were open. I could see with my conscience. I could see like I'm seeing now. It was very distorted, and this was not my reality. My reality was inward. And there was a white grid-like sphere around. In this grid-like sphere was where I was. I identify this part of me as like the innermost being. I find everything that I am now. That's where I was at. Around me, outside of this white grid like sphere, was black. Black was all around me. Physically, I'm trying to get out of this house that I'm in. The people that are around me are freaking out. They don't know what the hell is going on with me, but I'm trying to get outside so I can get some fresh air. I would come into the presence of the creator, man, and I just strip down naked. I get naked in the middle of that house. I get on my hands and my knees. I start choking. I'm like, and I couldn't breathe. In that moment, I felt dread. I felt disconnection. I felt like I was never, ever going to see my son again. I felt like that everything that I'd done in my life was for nothing, that if I continued to make the choices that I made out of flesh, that God was going to smite me, something catastrophic was going to happen, something tragic was going to happen. It was all in one moment. And then in the next moment, I felt love. Not in the love of like how the world sees love. This love felt like an infinite love. It went on forever.
Right.
I didn't really understand what was going on at this point in time, but I knew that it was profound. And after that moment, I was very humbled and I was very shook. And my soul, how the breath gets knocked out of you when you hit the ground real hard, that's what my soul felt like. It just felt like it was like, bro, what are you messing with? What do you think you're really doing here, man? You're playing with fire, bro. I'm coming home and like I'm talking about these breakthroughs that I'm having, and I'm having synchronicities, crazy synchronicities, man. So much so that my friends are having synchronicities, and now we're identifying them and doing insane things that nobody would even begin to understand. This is why we have this conversation, because I want other people to understand this is real. They can also have these crazy, profound experiences. So I'm having these synchronicities happen. It's telling me you're in control of your own reality. You're in control of your own reality. If I'm in control of my own reality, what is something that I really want to see? I want to see aliens. So what happens, dude? 3 times I see UFOs, and twice I seen it with my wife, and she's just as blown away as me, and then gaslights me into like thinking that I'm crazy afterwards, man. These were things that were happening that I was calling out and identifying. So, dude, one day I wake up and something just tells me, tell her to leave, bro. You tired of it? Tell her to leave. You want to grow? Tell her to leave. I go to work that day, man, and I was looking. I honestly, like that day, I was looking for a reason to be like, man, look, this ain't gonna work. You gotta go. Sure enough, it happened. I think you gotta go this time for real. She was like, okay. She just packed her things. She left some stuff here. She was gone. I ain't seen her ever since I seen her at the courthouse and we were divorced. What? That it was that easy? It's never been that easy for me to get out of a relationship. It usually involves a relapse. It usually involves me blasting somebody on social media, which we had our little scuffle on social media. It usually involves embarrassing them. It usually involves jealousy. It usually involves me going and cheating. It usually involves me doing something that identifies with my character defects. Not this time. She just gone. God's like, you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah. At this point in time in my journey, Reggie, JAH, because I feel so comfortable. Like, that's such a good name for you, bro. You remind me of the Greek god, bro. Your spirit, man, like your kindred spirit. Like, you walk a fine line of masculinity and humbleness and humility and these things that make a real true alpha male. You just want to hug somebody and tell them that they love you, dude. That's the type of people that I need in my life. I started having what I feel like are these really open dialogues with the creator, man. Which what I think happened in that spiritual awakening now is I think at that moment, man, I think my third eye was open. And I hate saying that because I feel like some people say that with ego. I have to identify everything. Like unlike you, man, like I have to identify where my soul's at. I have to identify what I'm thinking. I have to identify everything that's around me. I have to be very self-aware and vigilant of
Right.
everything that's going on around me. I'm having this dialogue with the creator. I'm like, what do you need from me, man? Like, where do we go from here? The only thing that I can think of is celibacy. One, you're gonna have to be celibate.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest things, bro. Meanwhile, some of the synchronicities that are going on are like I have some friends in my life that are doing some readings. They would send me chapters on like some reading that they did, and it would be profoundly accurate to what's
Right.
going on in my life, like lust, like hitting up these women at 10 o'clock at night or hitting up these women at 4 a.m. in the morning, telling them to have a good day type shit. And there's that little voice, man, that's like, what are you doing, bro? Like celibacy, celibacy, celibacy. And I want to talk about this story because it just happened the other night. My friend was over here and he ended up staying till like 1:30 in the morning. I'm telling him like we're talking about Christ consciousness because he's a devout Christian, and I'm trying to help him relate to when I say Christ consciousness to how our loving spirit is the exact same thing that he has. It's just identified in a different way, and we got to stop putting that barrier there. I was confiding in him about the fact that in the church, they don't hold themselves accountable to the deepest, darkest things that they battle. What will happen normally is say there's a normal church member. And this happens in all places, but I'm identifying with the church right now. This is where I see it most, and accountability needs to be held. I'm about to hold myself accountable here in a second as well. People walk into the church, they'll sexualize the worship leader. They won't say nothing, and then they'll go home, and then they'll open up their Facebook, and then they'll look at her, and she looks good, man. Then that next thought happens. What's that next thought? You know what happens? That idea starts to snowball. Now what do? You message her. Now you've got this dark secret that you're hiding while you're trying to portray yourself as this God-fearing, morally bound, principle-driven, family guy, loving man. You have this secret. Now, this secret could stop the moment that you walk into that church and you tell somebody that you have a problem with sexualizing the worship leader. Then that person could be like, well, we could fix that, man. Like we can talk about those things and we can get you through that. The problem is it snowballs into effect to where an event happens. Then the secret's exposed. Now you're exposed in front of everybody. Why didn't you say something to begin with? Why are these secrets happening? And why are all these things just being pushed under the rug? We're still preaching the message of love. It's confusing. It only starts with accountability because, again, we're souls having a human experience. Everything is an experience in order to learn and love. I do lust over women, and I've had that issue for a very, very, very long time. That's where the deepest innermost part of me knows. It knows that. So what's going to happen in this reality? Your weaknesses are always going to be exposed. Everywhere you turn, you're going to be exposed to that. So I have this problem, man, where instead of like waking up and feet on the floor, not looking at my phone, I roll over and I look at Facebook. I think about my lustful intentions. The other day, God told me, He said, if you keep doing this, I'm going to kill you. It was just as profound as that, man. I identify my fears because when I call out fears, I try to erase them because we live in a world where now we've already suffered through the things that we feared most. So now the things that we fear are just they're just images, man. They're things that can't hurt us because we're empowered by the Creator already. But God said He was going to kill me, and I went through with it, man. I went ahead and I got it out, and I went to work, and I had a great day, bro. It was me and another guy, and the guy, like, it was me and two other men, and we're on our way home, and we're driving down 20. two hands on the steering wheel, man. We're talking about life. There's like four cars in front of me on 20 riding in the left lane. You know, I'm going to hit that right lane because I want to pass. I look in my rearview mirror, everything's good. I'm a good driver. I get over and I hear Rashad say Jordan, and I didn't pay attention, but he said Jordan. And I look over, man, and there is a family in the shoulder, and their entire car is between the white line and the grass, and I've done pushed them completely off the road.
Mm.
And I make eye contact with them. I'm shook. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? And they're like, bro, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Like, you know, like I'm usually aware, man. I'm so sorry, guys. I almost killed y'all. Y'all don't understand how important it is to me because, like, in my walk now, I'm a leader, man. God's empowered me to take care of people, to love people, to make sure that they're protected. And I almost two dudes lost family, two families almost lost two dudes because of me. And I thought about it. I didn't think about it then, but I thought about it last night because it happened yesterday. I thought about it last night and I was like, God told you, bro. God told you what was going to happen. If you continue to live without moral, to continue to live without principle, to continue to live without self-discipline, you can't get your feet on the floor out of the morning. There was nothing right next to me when I went to get in that right lane. I just know it. I know that there was something right there because I almost killed all of us and maybe even that them people in that car. You best believe I hit feet on the floor this morning. I have this motor. What did you call it? The K word.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Kinesian or Kensing?
Yeah. I call
Yeah.
that my I call that my motor, bro. I can go 100 miles an hour for 12 hours and I don't know how I do it, but I move with intention. I move with purpose. And the amazing thing is we talk about me and my buddy that's the Christian, we talked about the yin yang the other night because I brought out the book of like I was showing him like Taoism for dummies. We started talking about the yin yang, but the thing that we started doing with the yin yang was like we started having so many different scenarios. We were using the yin yang, just a simple circle with the white and the black and the semicolons intertwining. It's a wave. We were drawing maps with it. Then he realizes, dude, like like, how can I do this? I'm telling you, man, all we know is to just be. We just have to be. And then like this happens. One thing I wanted to hold myself accountable. I've been living my life with purpose, but I've been living my life for my purpose also because we're souls having that human experience. I think we come to a level to where when it's time to make the right decision, now are we going to make that right decision?
I think that's an awesome perspective. Again, like you said, you're on your path. First thing I do in the morning, first thing I listen to, because I'm a spiritual being and consuming, whether it's physical food, consuming frequencies that go through my eyes and ears and mouth. First thing I put on pretty much every morning is I start with John Crossan's thought of the day. It's about 15 minutes, and he has different speakers or on different subjects. And I have this thing called Headway and it's like a summary over all kinds of books. I get on YouTube and Motivation Nation, or Stoicism, anything that's going to feed my spirit, my soul, first thing in the morning. I mean, and then sometimes if I do it too much every morning, I can get burned out. And then sometimes I just have gratitude. I'll just meditate. The first thing that goes into my mind, I feed my mind, it dictates the rest of my day. All right. That's been a practice that I've been doing. And here's how I got the JAH came into being. And that was around July of last year, when I was in a county jail, Dallas County Jail. There was a friend named Ben Cooney that I met there. He's out of Seagoville. And they would have the prayer circle. Man, he would always just rip the prayer circle. And I never went to the prayer circle, but I'm like, hey, man, without that prayer circle, there's a lot of peace in our tank, I would say. There came a time where I had loaned this young man, little gang member, a suit, and he promised to pay me back the next day or two. Well, he went to the store, he came to try to sell me a suit. Then I'm like, well, you owe me a suit, right? He goes and tries to sell it to another dude that's next to me, that sleeps next to me, who a lot of these gang members looked up to. And I said, hey, Mikey, that youngster, he owes me a suit. He tried to sell it to me, but now he's trying to sell it to you. I'm just trying to let you know. Well, they called that youngster to him and some other guys and said, hey, you need to give. And they called me back then. They just called me Hercules. That youngster, they called him over. They made him go get the suit. When he got ready to give it to me, he threw it at me. And I swear about 20 young bloods got up before that suit hit the floor and said, if you don't pick that up and respectfully hand that to him, they were going to beat his ass. Later on, he ended up carting himself out the tank. When that happened, I was just like at awe. They're like, you don't ever have to worry about it. We got your back. All you do is just try to tell us the right thing. So they said, you don't ever have to worry about anything. And this was, again, a part of the real spiritual awakening that I'm going through, because when I got there, I wasn't talking to anybody. But so when this happens, my homeboy Ben, I sit down. I'm telling you, at this time, man, my ego kicked. It just snapped my fingers, and these youngsters don't jump on anybody. But instead of that, I'm like, everybody calm down. I really appreciate it. I almost started crying. Like, thank you. But, I don't need, if he needs the suit, fine. But I'm just saying, young man, if you're going to pay, your word is all you got. So when I sit back down, friend Ben says, who are you? Are you Jesus? Are you Buddha? And then he goes, oh, no, because I'm working on my dreads. And he's like, oh, you're JAH. And at that moment, because here's the thing, spiritual way, I like that. I'm JAH. Because JAH is a spiritual being. Now, especially you hear it through the Rastafari, and it's JAH and then Yahweh or whatever. But here's the thing, everybody gets to reinvent themselves. See, the reinvention, the manifestation, I am a spiritual being. We got Christian backgrounds. Jacob became Israel. Saul becomes Paul. When people have a profound change, Abram becomes Abraham, they are reinvented. They are a new being. I was born and given the name Reginald Miguel Finch. That comes with background. Most people I want Reggie, but they're attached. There's this identity, a history that's attached with Reggie, a history that's attached with me, all right, with the word Reggie. But JAH is who I am, the consciousness, the connection of who I am with the Creator, the Father. As we talk about Christ consciousness, all right, yes, we must have suffering. How do I know I existed in this reality without suffering? The thing of it is, I have to master that suffering, because I can't take that suffering comes from my belief system about something. I'm not going to take my belief. When I leave this vessel, my beliefs aren't going to go there. So the whole ultimate thing to me of Christ consciousness and of certain practices, I have to let go of attachments to all kinds of forms, materials, even forms of beliefs. And each time I come across something that causes me to feel anger, that is my teacher. The ultimate Father, the ultimate Creator, gives me the freedom to free myself, because I am experiencing a unique perspective of the human experience based on time and place or skin color or whatever we've been taught. And over the years, I have held on to those things as like you're saying right now. All right, Jordan, this is where we have so much in stuff. We're going to be celibate, because the more spiritual growth, the more consciousness. How do you know you're the chosen one or you're a chosen people? People start thinking that you're weird, and you start becoming more alone. More and more.
Bro, I can't beg people to come over here and watch the fight with me. And I mean, I got the fight on, like I'll be chilling, bro. It's a vibe in here. I got black lights and everything. Nobody shows up, but like if I had a keg, everybody over here.
Because your frequency is raising and their frequency's here, and it just doesn't mix. It wasn't like, hey man, it wasn't like your wife, she's comfortable in the reality, which what we say the norm is. Now we have raised ourselves, and we want to, hey, Plato talked about there's the cave, and there's people that are in this cave that are chained, and that their sunlight, the shadows is all they ever knew. All right. For years. Then the shackles come undone, and one individual turns into the light, leaves the cave, and everybody else is staying in there because they have a fear, and they're in this cave that has become all they knew. This one individual goes toward the light. When he leaves the cave, he sees pasture. He sees a reality that you don't get in the cave. So he goes back and he's trying to explain this, and the people just stayed in the cave. He has to leave. This is a pattern or a story that goes on for a lot of people for eons when we get into this consciousness. And then this consciousness becomes a threat where even Christ is crucified for basically saying, look, you don't have to go to this religious institution. It's already in you to do it. It's already in you. You seek something on the outside that's already inside you, but the system will keep us blind or make us forget purposely who we truly are. They have institutions to where people, like you say, even with me, I get insecure. I don't believe in myself. I'm told not to believe in myself. If I don't say that God did this for me, because God let me be in existence. I am an aspect of God. I have to make a choice and realize and grow into this aspect. If not, I keep myself down. God's not doing it. But if I don't say Jesus this or God that, then I'm condemning my own self, which I'm judging me based on some conditional thought. And whoever came up with that system will just make them forget who they are.
We could take it for what it is. We identify, because I have to identify everything again. Identify that that's not what this is. Again, that's another basis of, or a standard of living where I know that my growth has been. I don't want to write anybody off. This is going to be controversial to say. As a victim of SA,
okay,
I unconditionally love everyone. This is how I get to achieve this, because at one point in time, my anger, and how I relate that to my addiction, because you've talked about it quite often, is once I start on my anger, I can't stop. When I know that I got you with my words and I see you cut, then I build on it, and I can't stop. But it's another thing. Well, if you can't stop with your anger, let's look at the opposite of that. Could you translate that into love and not stop that? I unconditionally love everyone. How I've been able to achieve that is because I know in this reality, not everybody's going to get to achieve that. The people that do feel the way that they feel about a certain person, or how people go and wreak havoc on the world, accountability is going to be served. I unconditionally love everything. It's not my job to worry about what's going to happen to the person that's dealing with their own demons and the repercussions that come with that, because that negative energy in itself can directly reflect a negative response within me, and now I'm spiraling. How do I respond with that? Where did they go wrong? What is wrong with their soul? Where's the spiritual malady at, to where they just can't perceive love, these principles, like I do? I said the ego has completely blocked that off for some people. It'll never be achievable, but that's where we learn and we grow and we learn tolerance. These are things, like everything that we've said tonight are things that everybody else says. These are actions. These are actionable things. These are actionable words that we put into our lives, because my man here is one of the most influential people that I've ever met in my life, and he dries sheets. You feel me? And I go to houses where there's millionaires with Ferraris in the garage. I ain't worried about how they got that money to get that. I promise you, because there's times in my life where I have $17 in my bank. I feel better than that person in that mansion, because it's people like JAH that walk this planet that let me be inspired by their story. You were born in 68?
That is correct. That's when I
Right.
entered the.
Okay. So I was born in 1991. So for almost 30 years, you was walking this planet without me even entering this reality. So you were going through your own experiences and then boom, here I come and I'm having my own experiences. And now our paths cross and we have this same path where we're like, yo, what's up, man? And it's like I can even envision it. It's almost like a dirt road that we walk down and it's we walk it together, but it's so hot that we have to walk it together. And I'm not going to walk a step for you, and you're not going to walk a step for me because it's our journey, it's our path. And we empower and we don't enable and we entrust and we love. There's other people that come on that path. And it's like, dude, I know you, bro. I didn't know that you was like doing this. Maybe, just maybe, Reggie, what if you're manifesting the people that you feel like could be the ones that help you carry this message right now, because this is the message that's going to take people away from the idea of like Trump or Biden or what's going to happen with Congress. This is the message right here that takes you away from the fear mongering that goes on in this society every single day. This is the message right here that you need to hear that creates that block from the hellfire and brimstone of what's going to happen to my soul if I look at something the wrong way. And then am I going to go to hell for that? This is the message right here where it tells you that all of those things are necessary so you don't have to live that way anymore. It's
And,
a form of leveling up. Am I
and you're
right?
right. And I completely agree with you 100%. I am manifesting this experience that we are in right now. And my why, right, that I believe I'm in existence is why I have to go to what perceived are dark places, because I no longer label events good or bad. I label them as experience and learning experience and my connections to understand why God is all. My why is I get up every day is I want to lead people out of the darkness and be a light of their true selves, to show a path of their true most inner self that they may be with God at all. All right. And to provide for Regina Papiana. Now, people will say, who's Regina Papiana? Regina Papiana is my fifth generation. And then I'm going to say in JAH as well, my fifth generation grandchildren, somehow to provide some form of wealth that they would have starting now, so that they would have some form of financial security. So that causes me to think in the now to provide something wealthy in the future. Even in part of that is part of this. Our path is a part of this. One of my favorite movies is What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. And in that, What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. And basically he dies and he goes through to go find his soulmate, his wife, who's in hell. And basically his son, which is Cuba Gooding Jr., is a black person. They go to see this guy in the library who was his teacher, his instructor, but they don't look like they were when they were in life. And basically it's a story, and we get to repeat the story all over again when he makes the ultimate sacrifice and stays in hell with his wife. And then next boom, they wake up and they're kids again. I, from a very young age, have believed in. I'm not saying that I'm a spirit, but there was something other than this reality, and understanding. I want to be a light, an example, just like you are. And this platform is a platform. I hope there can be more times that we can just have some other discussions, just shooting the shit, and people
There
might
has
call
to be.
y'all are crazy, but there's other people like us that
Dude,
it's
there's
been going on.
people. It's crazy. It's so crazy the people that reach out to me now, because these are people that I know. These are people that I would didn't ever have any conversations with. And now, like for instance, there was a person that I did a 2 hour podcast with her on her podcast, and she had it on Zoom and she got it lost in the cloud, and she's like, dude, that episode's gone unless, they got it held hostage. If I pay them, I didn't know this was going to happen. I was like, I guess we just going to have to riff again, like
Yeah, yeah,
because of the fact that like they happen so naturally
yeah.
because our conscience is in charge.
That's
We
right.
take our ego. Dude, before this podcast happened, I went for a drive and I went out into nature and I did some breathing. I looked at the sky. I just got right with God because, like, in these conversations, I need my conscience to really shine and my authenticity to shine because this is where I'm at when nobody's looking. What people think is like, oh, look, that guy's, trying to get clicks, trying to get views. I sit over here lonely sometimes because, like, I know that I'm supposed to be lonely. It's really easy for me to reach out to not be lonely. I struggle with that, but you know what? I stay lonely sometimes because then I wake up and I'm like, bruh, you like you just did it, man. You did that. Now make your bed and now let's go help some people out. When I like to manifest helping
Hmm.
people out in the mornings. In the morning, like I'm riding or something, I like to listen to classical music, and it's actually the playlist on my Spotify is classical villain music.
Hmm.
And because I channel I have to channel that innermost dark side of me in order to even love. Let's help people today, bro. Let's help people. And then somebody will walk in the trailer and like, dude, I'm down bad today. What's up, man? Let's talk about it. He's like, I gotta stop gambling. And I'm like, man, why don't you stop, bro? I'm like, do you enjoy it? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then is it affecting your family? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, then like, let's figure out ways in order for you to at least slow down on your gambling. Because one thing that's important that AA doesn't do, you got to stop being so hard on yourself. When you fuck up, you acknowledge that, you hold yourself accountable, and there ain't nobody on this planet Earth that holds me to a standard like I hold me to a standard. That's part of my ego. That's part of my consciousness. But I'm self-critical. I'm always evaluating. These are things that I have to do in order to even be, for me to even have that accountability for myself. I'm going to hold my friends to this same standard. And while, bro, I say some really crazy shit sometimes, like some real funny stuff, and like it'd be wild if like my boys be like, "Are you being for real? Like, are you dropping knowledge right now? Or are you dropping bullshit?" I have to have that balance because of the fact that in the mornings I'm already manifesting for me to help somebody subconsciously. I've got to let my light shine no matter what, as long as I stay free of anger. Because if I'm not free of anger, then I'm not riding on the foundation, that baseline frequency of unconditional love. If I'm not riding off of that, I'm not being a light. Throughout the day, what happens to me? I lose patience sometimes with my friends. Like, I'm trying to stack a trailer and I'm like, we need this, and they bring me something totally different, or they fill it in and I can't move or I can't work. Now I'm having to like scramble around things and work around things, or they ain't lifting it right, so now it hurts my back. And it's all little things that I'm fearful of already. I'll have the thought in my mind first thing, you gonna be able to load this truck and get everything from this house inside of this truck today? Are you gonna be able to not get hurt? Sometimes I feel like that I'm not going to be able to fill my truck because my homie here is doing the exact opposite of what I'm asking him to do. Or he'll lift when we have straps and it's sideways on him. So now it's sideways on my spleen or some shit like that. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing, bro? In this world, the yin and the yang, right? If I'm letting my light shine, everything that's in the dark is going to try to expose the very worst part of me. In somebody's eyes, when I'm letting my light shine, I'm somebody's villain. I'm somebody that's manipulated somebody. I'm somebody that is gotten angry at. I'm somebody that's belittled somebody. All while I'm trying to let my light shine. So everything that I do when it comes to my body language and how I react has to be off the basis of unconditional love. And it works about 65% of the time. The other 35, 30, well, I can't math. It's me flying off of my ego and then trying to get back to that state. This is real life shit where everybody else out here has a damn opinion about something, or wants to say something about somebody else that just is just completely ignorant and out of the blue, and it's like, how could you say something about somebody like that? Or it's somebody that's famous that just keeps getting clout for just doing the most absurd things. These are designed to affect you. You want What's the opposite of anxiety to you?
Hmm. Easiest thing to say is depression.
The opposite.
I don't know what would be the opposite of anxiety.
This is something that it's very hard because this is a question that I asked myself about a year ago, and I didn't have an answer for it, but I knew that I needed to identify the opposite of what anxiety was, because if I can't identify the opposite of that, then I don't know where to work towards. Then I don't have a goal.
What is it? Apathy?
I think it's authenticity.
Okay.
I think it's authenticity in the simple fact that if I know consciously that the creator is sending me on my path, then the only thing that anxiety comes from is fear.
Okay.
So if I'm living in fear, then I'm already living off my innermost insecurities and I'm not being authentic.
Okay. I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Authenticity is a big thing in my life. In doing so, that's where I start to identify people that are more like me. When I met you in 2017, I was looking more for somebody to just like let me feel accepted and keep me safe. You know, I think I gravitated more to your loving side and less more to your masculine side. I just needed to feel safe somewhere. That's why that I was so just drawn towards your energy, because ironically here you are walking around like the biggest, baddest man in that place of 60 people, and I'm like, that dude right there makes me feel the safest out of all these people here. I knew that I wasn't going to get hurt because you were around. I think that what happens then is that's the initial manifestation of what God's telling us is these are your people.
Right.
And that's how I identify family now, is through their authenticity.
Right. Yeah, I like that. What I'm working on just recently, the difference between what is loneliness and what is solitude. I am in solitude because in solitude, I get to put unconditional love on me, myself, and I, and the relationship that I have with the eternal God, my Father. To understand what Jesus was talking about, that I have to be removed from any kind of distraction. Me being human, I am struggling, just like even right now. I don't talk to anybody. My friends have become, I have a lot of friends. All right. I got friends at work. All right. Some of the guys I work with are from Souls Harbor. Matter of fact, one brother picks me up every morning and gets me to work, and a different brother brings me home. We were all experienced at Souls Harbor. I don't know if you knew Chaz Jenkins or Justin Ryan. I come here, my phone don't ring. A few years ago, man, I was out there selling dope. I realized that people only wanted me if it was beneficial to their need. That was a struggle. I had to overcome the belief that people were going to love me the way that I love them. That's not how the world works. World doesn't work that. And then come to realize people aren't out to get me. People are just interested in their own things, but I seek something from them. Therefore, I'm putting some kind of condition on them. All right. Is it a human being that I want to be with? Or is it the fantasy that it's become so real that the reality is distorted? Because I think I am alone and not having validation from some woman that I believe I'm a family man and that I got to hold on to, and that I need to have sex. All these things that need to be peeled away so that the innermost me, the shadow work, the consciousness can arrive. Because I was believing probably up to 3 weeks ago, I finally got comfortable. I'm by myself. And, you know, in all reality, I want freedom. I want to be free of anything that distracts me from my peace. Still, I'm afraid of that freedom because I think I'm alone, and I start searching for something on the outside that I am going to get a hold of, and it's just temporary. Oh, I got this girl, and ooh, man, it feels good for a little while, and then, but I want this other thing. I want this car. I want all these, keep wanting all this stuff. And every time I get something, it's only fleeting. I'm not in the present moment. Now I understand I'm in solitude. I'm not lonely. Lonely says that I have to have something on the outside for me to feel it. I'm in solitude. two different things: a process of spiritual growth where we're getting these epiphanies, we're getting this spiritual, this consciousness and the higher frequencies. And that's where individuals, you'll find out, like I said, like I am, we're going to seem like we're alone, but yet we are manifesting, and it's pulling us, the universe, God is pulling us all together. And my ideal of unconditional love is when I became a human being, came to anytime I put a label on something, because love, I had to research what is love. I love my dog. Ooh, I love Dallas Cowboys. Ooh, I love Oklahoma Sooners. I love burnt hot dogs. This word called love has so many different, that it's so skewed. Since we come from a Western Greek society, Western thought, I had to learn there's 5 aspects of love, the Greek called. There's epithmos, there's eros, there's philia, storge, and then agape. Dr. Phil Guile, and he was a Christian author. Selfishness and selflessness is the 6th form. Commitment is the 7th form. So I have, like you, man, I study. I have to identify with something. All these forms of identifying with something traps me, because if something does not meet the ideal of this form, in the end, I become formless. Without these forms of ideals of thought, consciousness has no form. It does not conjure up labels so that freedom can exist. But I didn't realize, because I don't do fear. I quit that fear thing, but yet I'm really fearful of being free to do really what I want. But we're doing it. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have got that if I wasn't in solitude.
You can bounce solitude off of it and say you're coming home to serenity, and
Right.
and you're not coming home to a different type of energy where you've gone all day and you've done something to where you've upped your frequency, you've really channeled your vibration. Looking back on it now, I feel like such an infant when I was feeling that way now, considering what I feel now. But at that point in time, like I'm doing things, but I'm coming home to a different energy, and it's a depleting energy that doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious that, well, here's your path. Again, the yin yang. Here's your path. You're doing the thing in the light. You're bringing your little light home in your little ball, and you're walking right into that dark. That circle around it's my conscience. It's what I call the creator. It's protecting me. It's right on the outside of that, man. I still have to identify that in order to even discern if it's of the flesh or if it's of the spirit. It's called Finding Joe.
No, send me the link.
So Finding Joe. It's got Deepak Chopra in it, Mick Fleetwood, Rashida Jones. They discuss how the mythologist Joseph Campbell's work influences people in their lives. And dude, just how this movie is portrayed, you immediately start to identify with Joe. And then like Joe becomes Jordan. Jordan becomes Jordan the River. And then Jordan the River means to flow. That's mean that I must be in a flow state. So now I hate to repeat myself, but I start to identify more meaning and more signs of why I'm supposed to be on this path. I even think about in this time that you've been doing your thing, Reggie, and I've been doing my thing. This lady messaged me out of the blue, man. She sent me a picture of me when I was a baby. She said, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Your name's written on the back of it." That's how I knew it was you. And I found you on Facebook. I just wanted to know, did you know you had younger brothers? I was like, no, but inside of me, felt like that I've heard that before. I felt like that I've had other brothers out there. I knew that on my father's side, I had an older brother and I had an older sister. My older sister died of a heroin overdose. I had some younger brothers on my father's side, and their names are Matt, Luke, James, and Elisha. This lady did a 23andMe. She bought it for me. One of the signs so my brothers' names are Matt, Luke, James, John, and Elisha.
Right.
Those are very profound names when we talk about religious in literature. Someone gave those people those names, okay? Like Get over yourself, bro. When you have so many coincidences in your
Exactly.
life, you can't just keep chalking it up to
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
coincidence, man. Like I'm so confident in this now. Like you said earlier, it doesn't matter how crazy someone thinks that I am because I talk like this,
Right.
because of the simple fact that there's that same person ain't just messaging somebody and then messaging back the exact same thing about how they feel about someone. Whereas like we're talking about how we feel on our innermost level, and
Yeah.
it's identifiable with the other
Yeah.
person. It's relatable with you, and it's
Right.
achievable with anyone. And I think that anybody that has any semblance of the five emotions or the five senses and the different emotions, it's achievable with anybody. And you're like, well, I've done the worst of the worst. And trauma breeds trauma, man. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm a victim to everything that's happened to me, because no, I'm a monster to somebody else because of the simple fact of what trauma instilled in me at a certain level. That person gets to have that experience so that they can have unconditional love. It's a very, very intertwinable, beautiful thing that makes you let go of that ego, because it's black and white. Unconditional means unconditional. And if you got something to say, I'm going to let you know how I feel about my perception on reality and where I stand in the world too, because it's got to be an open dialogue. And I think that my thinking could possibly even empower your strength and your higher power, even if it's a potato.
Yeah. I like that.
It's real
Yeah.
shit, man. And like
Right.
I tell people that come on the podcast, dude, we got to have another conversation. We got to expand on this. This is a manifestation in itself, because the more that we have this conversation, the more that this manifests, and the more that we learn about one another too. Personal relationships grow. And
Yeah.
then you were a big AA guy at one time, right? NA?
NA.
NA?
NA.
Are you still like that?
I just practice a path
Okay. Yeah,
because,
again, I forgot you don't really just like to put a label on anything.
and the reason why I'm saying this is because when you're in these in NA or AA, they say you live this lifestyle. You do these things to be in that lifestyle. So I respect that. I don't do all the things to be in those life, but I still adhere to the steps and to traditions. But I don't believe that one group has the answer. There's, if I'm just aware and what applies, and then I grow, I'll go from there. You know, because there's some things like you if you're gonna say you're in this, you do these things. And I'm like, that's just like a religion.
Well,
No,
it's
we're not.
also going to put you in a group of people as well that could
Right.
possibly have a negative connotation with themselves. Someone else is putting negative energy onto you.
I have met other people who think like us that are in, but they, but when you're in
Yeah, yeah,
groups,
very true. Very true.
but when you're in the groups, you speak the group language. So I'll speak the language because I know other people are, I'm more closer to them than, like you say, people that you just try to, that live lives that they believe are normal. I just practice.
And I ask that because just like the Bible, I like to reference it.
Okay.
And Bill and Bob met one another when and they were
Right.
both struggling with alcohol.
Right.
I think what had happened in that was a profound spiritual experience, some crazy way. One thing that he says is I was projected into the fourth dimension.
Fourth dimension.
Have you heard that?
I can't say right off the top of my head, but it sounds familiar.
Are you familiar with the fourth dimension?
Um, well, I'm familiar with the fourth dimension group, but what is
I
your
don't know
perspective?
that group. I don't know the group.
Yeah, but what is your
Okay.
perspective? Because
So,
I know
all right.
scripture that.
I'm going to try to describe it as best as I can, but I'm going to say part of the fourth dimension, they believe in even in quantum physics.
Okay, well,
Um,
yeah, I understand that. But yeah, the
okay.
fourth. All right, cool.
Because
But
one thing that I love to do is correlate reality with my own
uh
spirit.
okay, all right,
So part of the fourth dimension entails a collective conscience.
right,
The more that your conscience levels up, the more that it would be projected into the fourth dimension. What the fourth dimension is, you'll have a movie playing on a 2D screen.
Right.
In that movie is a 3D image.
Right.
So you have a 2D image playing a 3D image,
Correct.
and the fourth dimension is what's projected out of that image that makes you feel consciously about what you're seeing from the 2D image through the 3D image and receiving.
Okay.
So it's an actual transfer of energy from a 3D plane outside of that projection inside of you. That would be the fourth dimension. The
Okay.
fourth dimension is to me, my perception would be the ethereal, what we can't see, but what I'm waving my hands through right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where we find our path and our frequency. And that's where our consciousness collects.
Okay.
And then we go on and we connect our conscience, and now we're in the fourth dimension together. Anyway, so now that we're in this, I'm going to say now you're going to start to see signs and
Mm-hmm.
synchronicities, but you can only be open to these things. This is how really I like to influence people on a personal level. When I'm doing this with intention and I'm doing this with my pure motive to change the world, it happens. With good comes bad. And dude, I read the 48 Laws of Power. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, I have that book.
Dude,
What?
okay.
Yeah.
It's information that we need because there's other people that have it that don't
Yeah.
have the same intentions as we do. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is where that spiritual warfare becomes something that we've already won the battle over in our own flesh and in our own consciousness. So
Right.
now the spiritual battle has to go outward, and that's where the collective conscience, the we've been projected into the fourth dimension happens. And look what AA's done for a collective. Look what NA's done for a collective. So why can't that be quantum physics? Why can't that be translated into another area where like it would be more profound to understand what unconditional love is? I'm just trying to learn how to not drink. I think achieving this would be in the world that we live in, something how somebody was trying to figure out how not to drink in the 30s would be related to this. See what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
killing me, man. Dude, like I told you, man, I connect dots, man. I was really walking into this with some faith because all I really did was just catch vibes off of your posts and just
Yeah.
really see like where your heart and where your mind was off of the double-edged sword of social media. Man, this dude right here, this dude's speaking my language now. It's only not a coincidence anymore. I have to reach out to him now. I've been so influenced by you for so long. It's only right that I talk to you and reach out to you because I knew that this is exactly what was going to happen, man.
And I really appreciate it. And it's a privilege to have existed and be in the moment of your path. And hopefully and I know we'll have other future podcasts to reach out and to be around other people where we're in solitude. We're not we're not lonely beings. We just got to grow with each other. I believe some organizations, whether they're religious or they only go to a certain level and or frequency. I want to be on the right hand. I want to be with God because I'm gonna leave this. I know I'm in a school. I'm on a place called Earth. That's what I was taught. It was called other things before Terra, all these other things before. But right now, I'm at school, and it's like a big, how do I want to say, masquerade party. And then once I leave this form, you and I will be in the fourth dimension or even higher, vibing because we're frequency and like, hey, remember I was da 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 because again, I don't believe in time. This little bleep of the flesh is just a moment in the human experience. I'm very grateful and appreciative of you. Thank you
I'm
for
appreciative of you too, Jaw. I want to say this, and we'll wrap this up. But this is to my audience. If you're so naive to the fact that there hasn't been a shift on this planet and in this reality and in what's going on, like something inside of you hasn't shaken you to the point of feeling that, pray harder, go deeper. We all live in perpetual anxiety, and that anxiety is a warning that the shift is happening and there's a decision that needs to be made. And it's not a very hard decision. You don't have to change every aspect of your life here. If you feel like that you have to let go of, you just stop thinking about that. The only thing that you need to think about of is if there's really a shift happening. If you can identify that and say yes, then you have to find a solution to that. Then you have to identify things that you may have to let go in order to achieve that solution. But you're going to find the answer. The answer will lead you back to this question of has there been a shift. It's not about choosing. I don't know if you can choose. Yeah, I think you can choose because again, I made the decision, but like you're going to have to make a decision on whether or not this reality translates into something that's bigger than this and where your soul lies within that. If you think that nothing happens beyond here, that's fine, but you need to think about the consequences of that, the cause and effect. And if you think that there's more than this, then you need to think about what it's going to take to achieve more. All right, man. I appreciate
All
it
right,
so much, dude.
yeah.
We'll reach back out. Is there anything that you want to say, last words or anything?
Oh no, just hope to be back.
Dude,
And
yeah,
man, just keep growing, Stats. Do your thing. You be you,
for
man.
sure,
You
man.
be
I
you.
love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
All
All
right.
right.